Alteration of generations is vastly more apparent in the bryophytes and seedless vascular plants. This cycle is heavily dependent on water. That's because the sperm of these plants have flagella, thus the sperm require water to move towards the egg. With the adaptation of this seed, not only is water not necessary for reproduction, but the gametes are in protective structures that prevent drying out. Pollen, which houses sperm, moves by wind or animals to pollinate eggs. In addition, both pollen grains and seeds can survive dormancy for years, if not millennia. Alteration of generation still exists in seed plants, but the haploid gametophyte stage is reduced to a microscopic level. The sporophyte or diploid stage dominates. Most seedless vascular plants are homosporous, making only one type of spore that develops into the gametophyte. This is a fern gametophyte with the sperm and egg mate on the same structure pointed in these specific areas. Seed plants are heterosporous, meaning that they make two types of spores. Megaspores develop into the female gametophyte, making eggs, while microspores develop into the male gametophyte, making sperm. Unlike in seedless vascular plants, seed plant gametophytes cannot thrive on their own, but grow on the sporophyte, or basically the plant that you see. A few seedless vascular plants were heterosporous, so it was thought that seed plants evolved from one of these. The earliest known seed plant ancestor goes back to the Carboniferous period, 359 to 299 million years ago, and was a group of trees called the Pro-Gymnosperms, meaning first naked seed plants. Naked seed refers to the fact that the seeds of this group and all gymnosperms are exposed to the environment. Pro-Gymnosperms produce woody bark like modern conifers, but still release spores into the environment like ferns. Gymnosperms dominated the landscape during the Mesozoic era, 251 to 65 million years ago. The Mesozoic era is known as the Age of the Dinosaurs. Later, in the Mesozoic, is a period called the Cretaceous, 145 to 65 million years ago. Angiosperms, or flowering plants, became and are still the dominant plant form today. Seeds broke the dependency on water at the level of bryophytes and seedless vascular plants. Seeds are also contain a small amount of nutrition to help the plant embryo grow until it can grow its first set of leaves and make its own food. With both dormancy and the varying ways to disperse seeds from the parent plant, these generations can now be separated by both space and time. Seed plants can be broken down into two major groups: gymnosperms, whose seeds are naked or exposed to the environment, and angiosperms, whose seeds are enclosed in protective fruits and use flowers to attract pollinators. Gymnosperms are not monophyletic, meaning they don't share the same single common ancestor. There's actually 4 major groups of gymnosperms, but more fossil and DNA evidence is needed to observe the relationship between each group. However, they are grouped together because of the following characteristics. Seeds are exposed to the air. They have separate male and female gametes. They are pollinated by wind. And they have tracheids, a specialized xylem tissue that transports water and nutrients up the plant. Conifers are the most dominant of gymnosperms, so I will cover them as the representative life cycle for this group. Many gymnosperm species have separate structures called cones, where mycosporangia and megasporangia develop. Female cones are called ovulate cones, and male cones are called staminate cones. Gymnosperms make up 1,000 species in 4 divisions: Coniferophyta, the conifers; division Cycadophyta, the cycads; division Ginkgophyta, the ginkgos; and division Gnetophyta, the closest relatives to flowering plants. None of these groups are closely related to one another, yet they all share the aforementioned characteristics. It is likely that the common ancestor goes way back, and that little, if any, fossil evidence exists to link them all together. The first of 4 divisions of the gymnosperms is Coniferophyta. Conifers are the dominant phylum of gymnosperms, and these include pines, spruces, firs, larches, cypresses, junipers, etc. All members have needle or scaly-like leaves to help prevent water loss. This also prevents snow from remaining on branches for too long. And due to these thin leaves, conifers dominate cold and dry climates.
Contrary to popular belief, not all conifers are evergreen, and not all flowering trees are deciduous, meaning they drop their leaves every fall. Bald cypress, larch, and dawn redwood all drop their needle-like leaves each fall, and holly and rhododendron, which are both flowering plants, actually retain their leaves year-round. Conifer wood is often called softwood because the xylem contains tracheids only, with no vessel elements. Vessel elements makes hardwood hard, and tracheids tend to make the wood softer. This is great for paper and lumber for its flexibility. The next group is division Cycadophyta, also known as the cycads. Cycads are a great example of convergent evolution in plants as they resemble palms, which are a flowering plant but very distantly related. Cycads have large strobili that rely on beetles for pollination rather than wind. Cycads are a popular ornamental plant in the subtropics and the tropics, and were quite dominant during the Mesozoic era. This is probably one of my favorite plant species because this division, Gnetophyta, contains only one species and is a relic of an age that is long past. So most of these species died out with the dinosaurs. Ginkgo biloba was actually raised by Chinese Buddhist monks for centuries and likely saved this plant from extinction by natural selection. Perhaps it's the most easy to identify of trees because of its fan-shaped leaves, and they are deciduous in that they drop the leaves every fall. They are resistant to pollution and commonly planted in cities as an ornamental. Wild ginkgos rarely exist, which makes this species ecologically extinct, meaning they only exist because of human help. This species is dioecious. In fact, the most common sex that is planted are males because female trees produce these fleshy seeds that smell like dog. Our final division of Gymnosperms is Gnetophyta. And this is an odd group in that they are only gymnosperms that produce tracheids and vessel elements. Now, vessel elements are mostly found in flowering plants. Molecular evidence places them as most closely related to the conifers, but even the three living genera are quite dissimilar to each other. So more taxonomic work is needed as this group is likely not monophyletic. Ephedra, known as Mormon tea, is found on the west coast of the United States and Mexico and contains a compound called ephedrine, which can be used as a decongestant. This should only be taken by prescription as it is classified as an amphetamine drug. Netum are vine-like plants that are found in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. Welwitschia is found in the Namibian desert of Southwest Africa. Some have thought to be hundreds of years old.
The development of the seed made it possible to grow away from water. However, the seeds are exposed to the elements and pollen, and seed dispersal is much more limited to wind. In our next video, we will see plants that evolved the ability to completely protect the seeds and attract pollinators, leading to innovative ways to make more of themselves. This group is the Angiosperms.